What's up everyone, Vu of Envu Films, and I am back with another idiotic video for you to watch. And today I'm going to talk about how to shoot on the Sony a7S III using S-Log3, the same way you pretty much used to shooting with your a7 III, shooting in HLG3, Cine 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the heck Cine you shoot, whatever picture profile you shoot, you definitely have not been shooting S-Log in the a7 III. I think most of us haven't. Some people do, I understand that, but a lot of us do not shoot S-Log3 or S-Log2 with our A7 IIIs. We've been shooting Cine or HLG, and for the most part, we just deal with native ISOs of like 100, 125, 200 is our native ISO we'll deal with. We never deal with native ISOs like 640 or 800 or what have you using log footage. So the confusing thing for me, and I'm sure the most confusing thing for a lot of you guys, is how to adjust ISO when shooting in low light situations. So typically in your, when you're using A7 III, HLG 3, it's safe to say if you're in a low light environment and you need to bump ISO, you just go ahead and just bump it up to, 6,400, 8,000 ISO on the A7 III, and you're gonna get a pretty usable image out of your camera. S-Log3 is different because one, you have to overexpose by 1.5 to 2 stops or whatever. Watch Gerald Undun's video on the picture profiles to get more information, but this is just a basic tube douche explanation of how to shoot this. So because the native ISO of S-Log3 on the A7S III is 640, me and a lot of guys just assume, hey, it's the same thing as we've always been doing. If we need to bump ISO, we just go ahead and shoot at 6400 or 8000 the way we used to on the A7 III and HLG3, Cine 2, Cine 4, and we'll get the same result. That is not the case, and that is what will lead you to have really disgusting noise on your S-Log3 footage, because on the A7S III, the dual native ISO on HLG3 is at 2000. For S-Log3, it is at 12,800. So the noise level of 2000 ISO on HLG3 is the same as the noise level of S-Log3 at 12,800. And as you look at it, you're like, well, if you're shooting at 12,800, you're gonna be overexposed, which is fine because S-Log3 is supposed to be overexposed by 1.5 to 2 stops, what have you, to get proper exposure using S-Log3. So as a non-technical tube douche, just video shooter, this is how I would approach shooting S-Log3 on the Sony a7S III in the most simplest form possible. All right, guys, so real quick. So under normal HLG, hung low, genital picture profile, you would, you'd be shooting and oh crap, you need to bump ISO because obviously you're underexposed. So because the base ISO of HLG is 100, you would just go ahead and just start bumping your ISO, to whatever gets you to proper exposure. In this case, it's 2000. I'm at 0 here, and this is pretty much fine for HLG or Cine 2, Cine 4, because the base ISO is pretty much around the same, 100, 200, what have you. And in the Sony a7S III, it's going to be different for the a7 III, but in the a7S III, the dual native ISO kicks in for HLG3 at 2000, which means at 2000 HLG3, the noise level cleans up. And so if you were to like shoot up to like 6400 ISO, which as a7 III shooters, we all know that's what we usually shoot for, right? Like we don't go, we for clean, noise levels without needing to use like any type of neat noise removal, we just bump our ISO up to 6400 and we pretty much get a pretty good image. We could even go up to 8000 and things will probably be fine. Now, with the A7S III in S-Log3, the base ISO is 6400. And if we wanted to shoot, get the same noise reset or dual native ISO on S-Log3, we'd have to go to 12,800 to get the same noise level as HLG does at 2000. Now, if you look, native ISO of HLG3 on the Sony a7S III is 100. So if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 times from native ISO, you get ISO 2000, which is coincidentally the dual native ISO where noise cleans up for HLG3. For S-Log3, it's the same. So native ISO is 640. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 12,800 is the dual native ISO for S-Log3. So if you're on S-Log3 and you want the same ISO as 2000 on HLG3, you just shoot 12,800 and you get a clean image that you're used to shooting with A7 III all this time, at ISO 2000 or what have you. And if your limit has been 6400, so you go 6400 is what you've been shooting as like your limit of high ISO shooting on the A7 III, you would simply go to 2000, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times higher than 2000 is 6400. So you do the same thing on S-Log3. S-Log3 5 times higher is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 40,000 ISO gives you the equivalent noise level as 6400 ISO in HLG3. And if it's 8,000, you just go to 50. If it's 8,000, you just go to 51,200 ISO, and that gives you the equivalent noise levels as you would get on HLG3 at ISO 8,000, if that makes any sense. So if you look at my test footage here, you will see that at 640 ISO, everything looks fine. This is base S-Log3 ISO, overexposed plus 1.7, just on the metering of the camera. And when I adjust it to 12,800, as you can see, the ISO performance is quite good. Everything's clean because this is where the dual native ISO kicks in and all as well. And if you go to 40,000, the image is equivalent to what 6400 would look like on HLG3. So you just have to change your mindset where 40,000 is 6400 and 51,200 is like 8,000 ISO on HLG3 or Cine 2 or whatever, around there. So it's safe to say that if you want to shoot high ISO on the Sony a7S III, don't be afraid of looking at 40,000 or 51,200. That's gonna be the same noise performance as you are used to shooting at 6400 or 8,000 ISO in HLG3, Cine 2, Cine 4. And like I said, you're gonna look at it and be like, oh no, that's like really overexposed because ISO is so high. It is overexposed, but that is correct exposure for S-Log3. You're supposed to overexpose 1.7, at least 1.5 to 2 stops overexposed to get proper, good, clean footage out of S-Log3. So I hope that explains how to shoot with S-Log3, especially coming from an A7 III shooter who has been shooting HLG3 or Cine 4, Cine 2 all this time, and you finally have the opportunity to shoot S-Log3 on the a7S III because of the 10-bit 422 codec, and you're like completely confused. You shot it at 6400 ISO, 8000 ISO on S-Log3, and it looks like straight garbage. It's because the dual native ISO is different, and ISO behaves differently based on the picture profile, and you just have to work off of that picture profile's base and consider the overexposures that you have to do on the S-Log3. And also I'm using a completely different light right now. This is a GVM. It's like a round LED light. It's a little bit harsher than my usual softbox. Let me know what that looks like. I'm gonna review this light soon. I'm really using this video to test that out as well, but also trying to share what I know and what I understand about how to shoot S-Log the most simplest way to match what we're used to shooting HLG3 or Cine 4, Cine 2, whatever. And it's pretty basic, I think. It's pretty simple, but I could see how it could be pretty complicated if you don't understand. So I hope that helped at all. So if you like this content, please give it a like. If you want to see more, please subscribe. And until next time, guys, lighten up.